Video is one of the most powerful tools in recent history, and it's available to everybody. If you have a phone, you can harness this power. And today we're going to be talking about how to harness this power in your ministry. Welcome to the Church Media Creator Show. My name is Dave. If we've not met for the first time, I am a church media creator, and with me, as always, is my partner in crime. And I was not queued up to hit. There it is, my partner in crime, Curtis James. He is a media creator as well.
Yes, I am, and that was a good cover on the cue. They never saw that you were going to miss that, and they never knew. You covered it really well. One of the important things.
Thank you.
Being a creator, if you tell people when you mess up, they're probably going to know. This is a good tip. This is outside the show. If you tell people you're going to mess up, then they probably know you messed up. But if you don't, then they'll just think you were doing some really complex, clever thing that they didn't understand. Right?
I think you're right. I think you're right.
So there it is.
So, Curtis, you and I have been using video. We've individually been using video for decades, but we've been using it especially in the last, I would say, 5 years or so in our ministries at our church, Tate Springs. You can go to tatesprings.com and check out our church if you ever would like to, and see how we're using things. There's a lot that we're not doing. There's a lot that we are doing, and like you, we're looking for ways to increase our visibility and flexibility and everything using video and increase our reach and all that sort of stuff. Curtis, I want to talk for a few minutes about why, because I do get asked that with people, especially people that have been in ministry for quite a while and dare I say have fallen into this is hard to say, fallen into complacency, I think, in some areas of their ministry, their approaches and things. You and I have both run into, we've never done it like this before, that kind of a mentality, or why, and when I say mentality, that mindset, I guess we could say. We've never done it like this before. Why should we use video? We're not trying to put on a show. We're trying to preach the word, things like that. How do you personally handle that when someone brings up that kind of an objection? Because we do see it, whether it's with a deacon body, an elder body, people in the church that maybe don't quite grasp what is going on and why we use it. How do you handle it?
Well, it's interesting. I think we naturally, we kind of demonize things. I think it's just something we do in our culture, something we do naturally as human beings, where things we don't know, don't understand, we see some of the negative implications that can be caused by it, and we have a tendency to shy away from those things. Instead of, so for me, the best example I have comes from 27 years ago. I was serving in my first full-time church as the music and youth minister, and I was wanting to grow, I was wanting to learn, and the church had a library. I went into the library, and I found this old book. There was one book in the entire library that dealt with worship. One book. And so I took the book back to my office, I sat down, I opened it up, and I began reading. And it reached a point pretty early in the book where it started talking about an instrument being used in worship that was highly controversial. As a matter of fact, its introduction into the church was causing all kinds of problems at the writing of this book. A lot of resistance to using this specific instrument. And when I share people this story in the last 20 years, they automatically say, well, obviously that was the drums, because drums were very controversial, even still are in some settings. And the truth is, it wasn't the drums, because this book was written at the turn of the century. It was literally written in the early 1900s. And what it was actually talking about was the piano. The piano was this controversial instrument that churches were splitting over because traditionally churches used an organ. And the introduction of the piano, which was considered to be, according to this book, considered to be a bar instrument, a secular instrument, an instrument that didn't belong in the church, well, they were putting it in the church and they were using it, and it was so much conflict and so much controversy, whereas truthfully, when I read this book 21 years ago, 27 years ago, if you had tried to take a piano out and replace it with only the organ in most churches, you would have gotten in tons of trouble because the piano was the standard instrument used. It was what people were used to. And so to think, oh, well, the piano, that's not a church instrument, that's a secular, worldly instrument, is to demonize something that simply does not have any qualities that can be demonized. It's a tool we use in worship. And as a matter of fact, it's the most common tool used in worship right now around the United States. And now we use other instruments, and we use keyboards and drums and guitars and all those kind of things, and even band guitars, like we were talking about a minute ago. But when it comes down to it, the piano is kind of a standard instrument now. And so I think that when we look at something new and we look at how the world is using it, it scares us. And I understand that, because if you look at how the world is using video, it's bad. There's some terrible things out there being done with video in our world that we are trying to protect our children from and our church from. But at the same time, just like a piano, it's just a tool. It's just an instrument. We can choose not to use it and thus not reach a demographic, a people group, whatever, or we can choose to use it. We can redeem this for the kingdom of God. And so that's kind of my approach is, a lot of times we have these comfort zones of we don't do it that way or we haven't done it this way. Here in Texas, I don't know of any churches that said, you know what, we are just going to stop our technical advancement and we're not going to integrate air conditioning into our churches because no one would come because it's too hot. It's like 108 degrees in the summer.
Right.
And so the way we pick and choose which technology is good and bad, hey, air conditioners are being used in some terrible worldly places where awful things are going on. But we don't look at air conditioning and say, oh, air conditioning is intrinsically evil. So I do think it's important for us to look at how we can use the tools provided to us and really branch out. And I know I'm talking a long time, but in Acts chapter 17, we see the biblical precedent for that. And that's when Paul is standing at Theopolis, and he is literally standing amidst statues of false gods. And he uses them as the example, specifically the unknown God, saying there's a God you don't know, and he's not like these other gods. He literally uses the tool of an idol that was made to defy God as a tool to demonstrate who God is and what he's capable of. So we need to that's just one example. You could also take an example from Jesus at Caesarea Philippi, who talks about the gates of hell, and there was a place there where people sacrificed people, and it was called the gates of hell with the god of Pan there. All kinds of examples where in the Bible,
was flat out debauchery.
God's people used, God used tools around him that were actually being used for the wrong things, and he still used them for good. And so I think we have to look at how can we redeem these things and use them. And some things we may say, hey, this is just not good. We can't use this. There's no practical way to do it. But I think that it's important for us to really be willing to consider those things and say, how can God use this? And if he can, then maybe I need to learn how to use it. So that's kind of my response to that.
Well, and I think that the core of what you're saying is that it's a tool. And it would be like saying, I'm not going to use a hammer because a hammer was used to bludgeon somebody. Okay, well, it's used for horrible things, yes, but it's just a tool. It's not the hammer. Our pastors, every pastor seems to have used this illustration at some point. The one about the guy who has the Stradivarius and the guy that has the dime store violin. You remember that one, Curtis?
Yeah.
The Stradivarius gets put away, and the dime store one gets handed to the guy who is like the concert violinist. He plays the Stradivarius, and everybody claps and applauds. And then at the end of the thing, he actually brings out the real Stradivarius and shows it up and says, I didn't play this. This one is a dime store violin, and it's not the instrument, or the tool, it is the hand of the master who's using it. So the tool is what you make of it. Guns can be used for murder, which is horrible. Guns can be used to provide food, Guns can be used for protection. A hammer can be the same way. Video can be the same way. So when we're talking about video and why it is so important, I wanted to share a couple of stats with you, and I'm looking off screen here, so excuse my lack of eye contact. Nielsen Gauge report shows that YouTube leads other major streaming platforms on the internet as far as viewership goes, right? So other streaming platforms like Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, YouTube is the leader in all of that. So what does that tell you and I, Curtis, is that YouTube is a viable platform. And right now it is a platform that most people are going to consume content, overall. People, you and I both are watching it on our big screens at home in the evenings.
Oh yeah, I mean you got to get your cat video fixed, right? I mean that's
Right.
that's everybody's gonna have a cat video. No, I mean it's one of those things where YouTube. If you even just yesterday, I was talking to a family, and they were saying, our daughter likes to go and she can watch her TV in her room, and of course the door's open and they know what she's watching, and she's actually watching YouTube. She's not watching a show. She's watching, somebody's clip about this and somebody's clip about that. I was on YouTube last night looking up how to do something, and so it is the destination, even
It
in the
is.
world of social media, in Instagram and TikTok, where we've got these shorts and stuff, which are all good things. Um, at some point, we all still find ourselves back at YouTube. It seems like, no
Mm-hmm.
matter what our age is, we find ourselves on there because just of the ability to actually find the content you're looking for. Social media delivers the content it thinks you're looking for, or they want you to look for. But YouTube, I mean, obviously, a YouTube search still is going to
Sure.
send you some of that kind of stuff. But when I pull up my YouTube homepage, it's got a list of videos that it's recommending for me that are consistent with what I've been watching. And a lot of times I'll click on one of those or two of those or five of those or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's destination as far as when you're really wanting to find something to watch that's more than just a few seconds long. It is where most people are still ending up, which is kind of amazing when you think about how old YouTube is,
Right.
that it's held up so well over the years.
Well, and what I find interesting is that 25% of all mobile traffic, which is on the internet, right, is YouTube. That 25% of all mobile traffic. That means that we're watching YouTube. YouTube is providing something for us on our phones, more than a phone call, more than a text, more than work, more than checking email, more than playing an online video game, anything like that. 25% of all mobile traffic is on YouTube, which means that people throughout the day are on their phones looking at YouTube, consuming something. Now, one of the things that they're consuming on there is shorts. You mentioned shorts here just a second ago.
Mhm.
Shorts, it's like YouTube Shorts get 3.5 billion daily views as of 2020. Okay, Shorts wasn't Shorts wasn't the big thing back in 2020. It was coming on. People were starting to take a look at them. Here we are in 2023. It's more than that. It's in fact, the statistic I read is like 1.5 billion logged in YouTube viewers are watching Shorts. 1.5 billion logged in, like signed into their own account, people are watching Shorts. If that doesn't tell you that just the subset of Shorts itself is a huge target for you and me and our ministries to go after, I don't know what does.
Yeah, it's one of those things where when we look at the concept, the world has changed. So there used to be times where, say, we would send teams of people to go knock on people's doors,
Right.
and they would knock on a door and they would share the gospel, which is a great thing. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do that now, But it depends on your community. There's a lot of communities that are very resistant to that, and they actually don't want you knocking on their door. It's actually a major deterrent, and they don't want to have that kind of interaction. And we tell people, hey, when you're at the soccer game with your family, your kids are playing, and you're talking to that soccer family next to you, share what God's doing in your life. Share the gospel. When you're at the grocery store, when you're at a concert, when you're whatever, just out and about doing life, you're interacting with people where they are. And that's actually the most effective evangelistic tool that exists. And one of the main places people are right now is on YouTube. I mean, they're also on social media, and there's no question about that. But look at how many Facebook posts are actually just linked to a YouTube video, because it's a lot easier to do. It's a lot easier to watch. The quality's better, all these different kinds of things. Mm-hmm. And so realize we're talking about the marketplace at this point. We're talking about going to where people are, like we saw Paul do in Acts chapter 17, and go and sharing in the public marketplace. And that's where people are gathering. People are gathering online. People are gathering on YouTube. And yeah, it's not the same way, but it's still where people are. So we want to make sure that we're going where they are. And you're not going to do that with just straight up audio or by sitting in your living room doing nothing. Right. You have to produce something to put on it.
Right. And when you look at it as a evangelistic tool, as a mission field, that means not making the mindset shift from having your church be the place where it all happens. That's not it. That's tantamount to standing out on the front stoop of your church, shaking your Bible, going, "All you sinners, come inside, come inside. Sinners, you're going to hell, come inside." As opposed to just going out and meeting people where they are, like Jesus did. You brought this up in our Bible study last night, that Jesus, we were talking about the rich young ruler. Jesus asked him questions that were specific to him. When he met the woman at the well, the woman that was going to be stoned for adultery, when he called Mary Magdalene, when he came, I can't remember, was it Philip, the one he said, "I saw you under the olive tree." He meets people where they are. And if we're going to be like Christ, we need to do the exact same thing. So realizing that your congregation, if we just look at your congregation and just as a way to touch them, without throughout the week, right? Not just the Sunday morning, but the other 167 hours, your congregation, people in your congregation, your youth are on TikTok. So you need to be engaging at some level on TikTok, because that's where not only other people are, but that's where your people are. So keep that in mind. Gen Z, my kids, your kids, Curtis, Gen Z uses video probably more than anybody else or any other generation. They are constantly just go to Walmart and watch a 21-year-old walking through Walmart doing their shopping. They're not even paying attention to what's going on around them. They're looking at TikTok and scrolling as they're walking. I mean, that boggles my mind. Why aren't they bumping their heads or anything? But that is where they are, and that is where they're seeking information. We're going to talk a little bit about a way to use YouTube here in just a minute, specific to just that type of thing. By the way, if you are enjoying this, if you're getting some value out of what we're doing, we would love it if you would subscribe. This is the Church of Media Creators YouTube channel. We would love for you to join us. We'd love for you to be a part of the conversation. We do this live show every week at 10 a.m. Central Time on Thursdays. We would love to have you here. And be sure to like and subscribe and share it with other people. If you ring the notification bell, be sure that you get personalized or all of the notifications so you don't miss a thing. We are doing this. We're uploading things. We have a shorts channel. We have all this sort of stuff that we're here, and we're doing this all for you to help you to learn how to use the media and technology to amplify the gospel and to help change people's lives. So, Curtis, I think when it comes to the ways to take advantage of video, probably the most obvious thing that any church could do, I think, would be to add live streaming to their ministry. I mean, that's kind of that's one of the biggest struggles that you and I see is people wanting to get into live streaming. It's also kind of the low-hanging fruit, I think, because it's so commonplace nowadays that if you're not doing it, I think you should.
Yeah, when it comes down to the live stream concept, there's some mixed philosophies, and I understand, actually really understand and respect the different sides of the conversation. But what it comes down to is there's an expectation culturally that people are going to be able to go and they're going to be able to find something now. This is a post-COVID world. It wasn't like this before COVID, but now people expect that when they're out of town or when they're homesick or home with a sick kid or whatever, that they're going to be able to pick up and engage in that service. And I know, like, when I go on vacation, there's a place we go that's kind of remote sometimes, just my wife and I, to spend time together. And what happens for us is we get there and we're not on a Sunday morning, we're not packing up and driving 45 minutes into town to a church. We do choose to pull up our service and engage in that way. Now, I don't believe that's a good way to do every week. So I do think there's a danger of any kind of broadcast related thing that tells people it's okay not to come to church. But what a live stream does is it puts things up at your normal church time, allows people to engage if they've got sick kids at home or if they're not well themselves or they're out of town or whatever, something's going on that keeps them from making it to church that day. But then it also provides you with more, long out there things that you're going to be able to use to engage people. It gives you content to start with. And I think both of those things are actually really, really important.
Right. The way I look at it is you're already doing this, right? So you're doing and we can get into the real world analogs, but one of the things that everybody is or a church is doing when you step back from the spiritual aspect of it and you just look at it from a technical standpoint, you're doing a live event every single week and you've got a keynote speaker and you've got a little mini concert that happens beforehand. You've got all these things that are going on. So turning on a camera, if nothing else, just turning on a camera and capturing it is a great place to start. Actually working towards a more polished, a more on-purpose type of a production for it will give the viewer a much better experience. But you're creating this content already, capturing it so that you can repurpose it later is basically is the lowest of the low-hanging fruit, I think, because what you can do is you can trim your video. Just if you look at YouTube alone, you can after this video is this live stream is done, I am going to go and cut off the video part at the beginning where we were just sort of bantering back and forth while I was getting a few things ready for the show and we were just saying hi to everybody. And I'm going to cut the stuff off at the end where we answer some questions and things like that. And a version of this live stream is going to be put into our videos. And it's just going to be from the time that I say, hey, welcome to the show, to the time that we say goodbye. You can do that with your live streams at church. That gives you two pieces of content. That gives you the actual full live service. And then if you just went and trimmed out just the sermon, you now have something else on your channel that you can provide as an archive, as a Bible study aid. You can take your sermons. If you're doing a series, then you can take that series and put it in a playlist. And now you have a playlist of these five, parts of a series, and you can start building a library that people can then use. And then from that, you can also strip out your audio and you can put that on a podcast and serve that out through, say, Spotify or basically any of the podcasting clients that are out there. You can put it out there, and then wherever people are, Amazon Music, Spotify, YouTube, Google, Apple Podcasts, any of these places, they can partake of what you're putting out there on a weekly basis. And that's just with the live stream right there. I mean, what did we labeled like 5 different pieces of content coming from just one church service, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and it's like if we go to the grocery store. So like there's a Kroger over by my house, and same Kroger you shop at, Dave,
Yes.
and we walk in the door, and I have a routine when I go grocery shopping. You may not have a routine, I don't know. But
I
if you go to
follow
the
him
far
sometimes. It's
left,
awesome. You should watch this.
if you go to the far left, he's shown up a few times while I'm grocery shopping. It kind of creeps me out,
Uh-huh.
but I get to see his daughter. So anyway, but we if you go all the way over to the far left, then you're going to hit the veggies and all that stuff, and I'm going to work my way through there. And I know as I come back over, which aisle has got the stuff that I need, and I work myself down. I don't go over and say, well, I need broccoli and get broccoli, and then say, well, I need to get cheese. That's on the opposite side of the store, literally the exact opposite, and go all the way over. And while I'm over there, go, oh, and I need asparagus. And I go back over to the veggie section to get asparagus. Now, I might forget sometimes, but in essence, when you go into the produce section, you try to buy the stuff you need for produce there. And it's the same thing. We're talking about you're already there. Why not go ahead and pick up the grapes? You wouldn't say, well, I'm going to pick up my vegetables now, cheese next, and then fruit after that. Well, the veggies and fruit are right there next to each other. And so in essence, what you're doing is you're taking the work you're already doing, you're already there, and let's go ahead and use it completely instead of wasting our time bouncing around or getting to the other side of the store and, oh, I didn't, I want to get the fruit, but it's all the way over there, so I'm just going to leave.
Yeah.
The fruit may be the podcast, right? So
Right.
if we do it all in one place, we capture it all, then we have to do whatever we want to with it, and we can use it, in any way we want to, and that's a good thing.
I think so too. So let's talk about the second way. And I think well, the second let's put it this way. The second way is for promotion, right? You can use video to promote whatever you're doing, whatever program, whatever upcoming event. You can use it to showcase something that just happened. This weekend at our church, Curtis, we have a father-son rocket building and launching afternoon. So Saturday afternoon, you're going to be helping everybody build or morning.
Actually in the morning, yeah.
Yes,
so
you're going to be helping people build rockets, and y'all are going to be launching them, and we're just going to be having a great old time out there. When it's all said and done, I hope to have my drone out there so that I can get some really cool footage and stuff. And you're going to have your phone, and you're going to capture some video of the teams. I'm going to capture video of the teams, and when it's all said and done, we're going to put together a little 2-minute sort of a recap of this fun, awesome time that each of these dads and their kids can download and keep in their memories. It's something that they can have to remember the day. It's something that we can have to say, hey, here's something that we like to do with our kids, and here's how as a church body we help to facilitate some memories and growth in father-son relationships, things like that. One of the things I think, please.
It's a tool, just like we're talking about. Like, obviously, a rocket is not like, oh, the gospel. No, it's not. It's a rocket. But in our family ministry, we're trying to encourage dads to spend time one-on-one with their sons, and so this is something we do. And then the son really wants to do it, so they can help convince their dad to be there. But it's the same thing as using a video for a tool. But as we use it, which, by the way, I want to try to shoot your drone down with a rocket, because I think that'd be so fun for me, not for you.
Right.
And
have your checkbook ready.
You got insurance, right? And so, but yeah, you can do things, after your VBS or whatever. You do have to be careful if you're ever shooting those kinds of videos, like if you're shooting something after a VBS or something after an event like this that has children in it.
Mm-hmm.
Just remember, you can't go posting that to your public YouTube channel. You can't go put that on your public Facebook page without consent from the parents, because they may not want their kids' images just floating around the internet. And so make sure that you either get permission, or what we normally do is we post it in our private group, that then the video is secured within a group of members of our church. That means it can't be used for promo, even though we can edit it in ways and you kind of have to break some rules. So this
Hmm.
is where we're talking about promotional on the aspect of it. You got to break some video rules and some photo rules, and that is lots of pictures of the back of kids' heads,
Right.
of father and child next to each other but looking away, of a distant
Hands.
shot where you can't make out people's faces,
Hmm.
hands, all that kind of stuff. Whereas normally we want personal images. When we're talking about promo, we either need to secure permission, which sometimes we do. Like we may shoot a video this weekend. It's not being a big group of guys. I know all the dads, and I may look at one of them and say, "Hey, I got this great shot of you and your son. Do you mind if we post this on social media, or add it to a video or something like that?" But you really do need to be careful anytime you're using footage, even almost like a B-roll, for a promotional that has kids in it. Make sure you either have permission, you're posting it in a safe place, or your images just don't show the kid's face and who the kid is. Because
Yep.
in today's world, that's a really important thing we have to do to respect our families and our kids, keep them safe.
Yeah, one of the traps I want to warn everybody against, I think, when it comes to the promotional videos, I see this. I mean, and Curtis, this is a trap that we as a church staff fall into as well, is that we use our social media. Sometimes we may go a week or two where the only thing we're doing on there is promoting and not actually engaging and using video and social media beyond just the promotion thing. It's kind of like it's it can be like scrolling through Facebook and only seeing sponsored posts and only seeing ads. When you're putting content out there, when you're giving people videos, or something to read or something like that, you're actually asking them to stop doing what they're doing for a moment and consume whatever it is that you have to say. So the people that are watching this show right now live, Curtis and I, by putting it out there, by just simply hitting stream now and beginning a conversation, we are asking them to stop what you're doing, pay attention to us. So we want to make sure that we give them value and don't just I could start off every single video that I do by saying, hey, go to easylivestreaming.com and get your free guide on beginning to live stream, or join the Church Media Hacks group, or go to churchtrainingacademy.com and become a member of our membership website. I could just sell, right off the bat and just promote. I actually just did 3 different promotions right there as an example of promotion. It gets dull, it gets boring, and I'm not going to pay attention to people when all they're doing is promoting and selling. I want to engage with the people, with the ministry, with the personalities, whatever, behind something like that. And your church membership, your congregation, the people that you're trying to reach are exactly the same. Curtis, we have to realize that just because you go to church does not mean that the other parts of society and the other societal norms and culture and all that sort of stuff are not a part of you. You and I are consumers, just like everybody else. The people that sit in the pews are consumers, just like everybody else. The same rules for how to have a engaging and thoughtful and attractive social media feed, Instagram channel, YouTube channel, are the same for a church, a ministry, as they are for Nike or Netflix or anybody else, right?
Yeah, and occasionally, I think a good thing to do, and I try to do this, and I don't do this enough. I actually was thinking about this just over the last few weeks, is to just, go live, whether it's through social media or YouTube or wherever. And if you're a leader, if you're a pastor, a minister, go live with a word of truth.
Mm-hmm.
It's not unusual. I think I made a social media post yesterday morning. It wasn't video, it was just an image, it was just a passage of scripture. It was one I read yesterday morning in my own personal daily devotional time, and it just spoke to me, specifically where I was yesterday at that exact moment. There was some stuff going on in my family that just I just read it and it brought peace to me, and brought direction and purpose. And so it's good to just pop on every once in a while and just say, "Hey, I just read this, and here's what I think. Here's what it's saying to me. This is what God's using in my life," because it shows that you're practicing what you preach.
Right.
We're telling people, hey, you need to read your Bible. You need to read your Bible like every day. You need to pray. You need to be in the Word. And yeah, on a Sunday morning they can figure out that you're in the Word, but you have the opportunity. And this is something I even had in my notes for this show today. You have the opportunity to not just be in the marketplace. You have the opportunity to be in their home, and there's a big difference here. There's a powerful thing that happens when someone invites us into their home. This is where I was talking about. We talked about evangelism, the going around and knocking on doors, and how in certain communities that is really rejected. People don't want you knocking on their doors.
Yeah.
It's different when someone says, "I'd love you to come by my house," or when you say, "Hey, would you mind if I came by and sat down and talked with you?" When you're invited into someone's home, then there's an acceptance of what you're saying. There's an openness, and we have to realize that whether this is a good or bad thing, because it can be a terrible thing, we invite things into our homes through our screens every day. And a lot of things we can invite into our homes can be very destructive and dangerous. But again, video is a tool. And so what happens when I just go live, or I just post a video of me talking about scripture for a couple of minutes, or about what God's doing in my life, or about what God's done in the life of some of our people in our church, and that video, then someone pulls that up on their phone, they're in their car, they're at their house, they're inviting me in, and they're open to what I have to say. And it's not me promoting anything. I guess actually it is. I'm promoting Jesus, and I'm promoting the Word of God. I'm amplifying that in my own life, and I'm using the video to, as we talk about here, amplify the gospel in a way that someone else can hear it in their own home and invite it in, instead of me pushing my way in. And that's the difference between when I do a promotional item and when I do something that's more ministry based. But I combine the two. So for instance, when we come to our fall semester and we're starting out some new parent Bible studies, I'm going to make a short video that says, here's what I think is so great about this book. Here are the truths it provides. Now I want you to come, because we can really dive into these things together instead of just having a 30-second conversation about it. So I do think that there's a lot of, sometimes something's just promotion, sometimes something's just edification, but a lot of times it can be both. And I think it's probably most important when it's both.
Right. I think so too. And what you're doing is you're providing value to the person that is watching this. You're giving them a valid reason to stop and pay attention to you. Now, folks, I want to share another valid reason to stop and pay attention to what Curtis is doing. Curtis, you have started, and this is really cool. This is thinking outside the box, and I commend you for it, because you and I always talk. You say, you're going to have to help, with the thumbnails, Curtis, and you're like, I'm not a graphic artist, but then you turn out something like this, so I can't really tell if you're a graphic artist or not. I want to show you. Do you want to set this up really quick, or do you want me to just go with it?
Yeah. Well, so we were. My staff meetings our family staff meetings are quite fun a lot of the time. Matter of fact, we spent one of them shooting off rockets a few weeks ago, because we wanted to make sure we knew where things would land. This is what we do in family ministry.
That's
why
right.
It's better. So anyway, but we were sitting talking about, we had a mother-daughter event coming, or father-daughter event coming up for Christmas, where it was a gingerbread house building contest, because I figure the daughters want to build a gingerbread house and the dads want to win. And so good way to motivate both sides. And so we were trying to figure out how to promote it, and we decided to get this inflatable gingerbread man that would sit in the foyer entry area. And I named him Steve because, I don't know, I liked it. And so we began to joke about Steve and everything. And then I thought, man, I wish we could use Steve in a promotion for this. And as I brought it up, my youth minister said, "Oh, man, there's this one guy in our church that does like the Gingerbread Man voice from Shrek so well. And I'm like, we got to figure out how to do this. It's like a Shrek theme today. Anyway,
Apparently.
but we have to figure out how to do it. And so this is what I came up with. And so if you want to roll that beautiful bean footage.
Okay.
Hey, Tate Springs families! I'm Steve, your Gingerbread Man friend.
And I'm Enrique.
Enrique, I can't find my house. I've looked all over, but it's just gone.
I know. Did you look where you last remember seeing it?
Well, that was the first place I looked. I'm afraid someone ate my house.
It did.
Okay, was that Thomas C. Riley or whatever his name is that was with you doing that? I'll spare you all the rest of the cheesiness. But the point that we're making with this is that someone who's not an artist animated this and has a unique piece of content to put out and use to promote, and it caught people's surprise. I would say, wouldn't you?
Oh well, I mean,
John C. Riley, not Thomas. Sorry.
In our church. Yeah, it became a thing where people were like coming around and asking me who did the gingerbread and who was the penguin, and then they would ask about it. At one point, there was talk of actually having Steve and Enrique do our church announcement video because they had become so popular. Awesome. And Steve and Enrique will be back next year for Christmas. They might even show up in like a summer promo. Because, what do you do in the off season if you're a gingerbread man and a penguin? And we don't really know why they're friends, but I just loved the idea. And this is truth. We ordered the gingerbread man, the inflatable gingerbread man. You inflated it, and you realize there's like a little penguin with him. We don't know why there's a penguin with him. Doesn't really make any sense, but there's a penguin, so we named him Enrique. And so we voiced it and everything. But I am not an animator. I cannot draw a stick figure that you wouldn't chuckle at. I'm terrible at it. I can't do graphic design. I just don't have the eye for it. But Adobe has all kinds of stuff out there, and I have the Creative Suite thing, right? And so it comes with all kinds of random stuff. And a lot of times we're like, well, I just use Photoshop and Premiere and After Effects or something, or Illustrator or whatever.
Right.
We just use the biggins. But there is a program called Character Animator that they have, and it's part of your package if you have the Creative Suite. And so what that means is you can download that, and you can download puppets for free from places, or you can buy them from places. It comes preloaded with some, and it tracks your eyes from your camera. It tracks your eyes and mouth movements and body movements. And so you can move around. You can talk, and it's gonna track the audio to move the mouth. So you can import audio. So like when we did this video, and we'll go into detail if you guys want us to sometime. We did this video. All I did was took my little handheld recorder, walked in, and had the guy who was voicing the Ginger Man read the lines in a room across the street somewhere. And then I came back and I read the lines for Enrique because I'm Enrique, of course, and I had them in two different audio files. They're actually two entirely different rendered puppets that are totally independent video files from one another. And so, and then when we ran the audio for the Gingerbread Man, I'm the one doing the moving and opening and closing my eyes and stuff like that. That guy didn't even have to act that out. And then depending on videos, you can move hands and stuff. We didn't do that in this one. But those are tools that you can use that really catch people's attention, because people aren't expecting to see a cartoon promo for something at your church, because that takes a lot of work and money and all those kinds of things that we don't have to spend. And we wouldn't want to spend paying an animator to come in for our church. It would be bad stewardship in a lot of cases. But in this case, the tools are right there. Takes a little bit of finagling, but if you have the Creative Suite, you really have all the tools you need to do that in a matter of just a few hours. And we've actually made 2 more videos since then. I think 2 more that we've used in different ways. We did the mother-daughter painting thing, and then we have another one for the Father Son Rocket building this weekend. and it just catches people's eye. Kids like it; they engage with it more, and so it's an opportunity that you have to use a tool to promote things, but do something that looks different, not always the same.
I think it's genius. And like you said, if you are a subscriber to the Adobe Creative Suite, which a lot of creatives are, you know, I pay my $40 a month or whatever it is for it. You have this tool. So for the cost of a subscription that you're already paying for, and you know, an afternoon, you can figure out how to use this tool and start creating this. Add this to your arsenal, add this to your quiver of tools that you can pull out and use for various things. And then once you learn how to use it, and your creativity can start kicking in and doing stuff, like you said. I mean, we may do an announcement video. You know, you and I even joked about let's do an intro for one of the shows or something with an animated Curtis and an animated Dave. We can do that. You know, it's fun, it's cool, and it's engaging. It's worth trying. Okay, and that's part of the thinking outside the box when it comes to adding content, putting a video, using video out there to grow the engagement, to grow your exposure, and to touch people and to engage with people in a meaningful way in those 167 hours between your worship service every Sunday morning. So let's talk for a sec, Curtis.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I saw just in the comments, just a real quick, this is worth addressing. They ask how much the Creative Cloud stuff is. It's expensive, and it is monthly, so it's a subscription. It's expensive. You want to make sure that you go through and get the nonprofit pricing.
Right.
It's worth the effort. It's a major savings. It's pricey, but it's got Premiere, it's got Illustrator, it's got Photoshop, it's got you know,
Audition,
the character animator, it's got Audition, so you got a full audio suite in it. It's a lot of stuff.
It is.
That can be used on more than one computer, by the way.
Yes.
There's ways to do that within the licensing that you can do. So, you know, there's a lot of ways to do that, but it is pretty expensive, but a lot of people already have it.
Right.
And if you do, then this is basically free to you to use.
Right, exactly. Let's talk for a minute about shorts and reels and TikTok and things like that. That is something that we mentioned earlier in the video that, you know, in 2020, I'm trying to remember what the statistic was. It was astounding. 3.5 billion daily views of YouTube shorts, and this was in 2020. Now, granted, that's in the height of the pandemic, so people are locked down, they're staying home, they're consuming at a rate greater than what would be normal for the average person getting up and going to work every day. But here we are 3 years later, and I haven't seen the latest views, but I'm going to say they're probably close or greater than the 3.5 billion in normal life, right? People are consuming this bite-sized, snackable, as we in the industry call it, snackable content. That's exactly what this is. What we're doing right now, this live show, this is a long-form piece of content. So we're going to talk for an hour and 15 minutes, whatever it is, and cover this topic. Then we're going to cut it up, and we're going to make shorts and reels, and we're going to take different sections of this and make individual YouTube videos that are broken out of this. We're going to reuse this 6 ways from Sunday, and you can do the exact same thing. Now, Curtis, in the news, we are hearing everybody is up in arms about TikTok, and is it, you know, something insidious coming from China? Is, you know, one thing I have learned, just going to talk about that for a sec. One thing I've learned is that it is the parent company, the people that originally were behind it, is a Chinese company. The content that a kid is seeing in China is different than the content that a kid in Europe or in the West is seeing. So it can be used for nefarious purposes. It can also, just like any algorithm, can be used to serve you more of what you are seeing. So we need to keep that in mind. If you're looking at booty shaking all day long, that's what it's going to serve you. Okay, if you're finding it and and liking it and watching and consuming it and stuff, it's going to give you that. It's going to give you what you are consuming. Okay, so we need to keep that in mind. That's why it's important as parents that we are checking in on our kids, looking at their phones, seeing what they're looking at, and doing things like that. Going back to our discussion though about it being a tool, it is a tool, and we have to realize we can look at things, Curtis, as we want them to be, or we can, with that pie in the sky hopefulness, come all ye who are weary, standing and shaking our Bibles on the front stoops of our church, trying to get people to come in the door. Or we can look at them as they are and work within that framework. And part of the way things are is TikTok is huge, and it is out there, and I think we should be there.
Yeah, it's interesting right now. Of course, the government is, dabbling with the concept of restricting things or making things illegal, and who knows what they'll decide to do. What we're looking at is just kind of the basic tools that are out there.
Right.
I do understand there is a concept that comes along with the idea of endorsement, of endorsing something. And there is fear that if we post things in certain groups, certain areas, certain things, that we risk endorsing a use of an app or something like that. And I understand that. And I do think that there is, you have to reasonably consider, what you believe about these things. And is this something you shouldn't do? And if you look at TikTok and you say, I'm doing the research and I believe that there is something intrinsically wrong with this thing, and for me to use it is to encourage other people to use it, I can understand your apprehension there, and I think that's an arguable point. I also believe that if you're, for instance, some part of this video will probably get posted to TikTok. I don't tick or talk. I'm old, and so I just don't.
Right.
I mean, I do a little bit on Instagram. I do a little bit on Facebook. Twitter, I get stuff on. I never post on Twitter. I'm not really a huge social media guy. TikTok's not my thing. I don't do it. And what I'm not doing is walking around telling people, hey, you should go watch what Church Media Creators is doing on TikTok.
Right.
I'm not saying that.
Right.
What I am having is people who are on TikTok coming to me saying, hey, I saw your video on TikTok. So in essence, me going there is not necessarily mean I'm actually endorsing the app.
Right.
Because I'm not encouraging you to go to TikTok and watch something. I would rather you watch on YouTube. Well, There's a lot of bad stuff on YouTube. You can look at YouTube, you can look at Facebook, you can look at the algorithms, you can do all these kinds of things. But when Paul went and he stood there among the Romans, among the false gods, he wasn't endorsing the false gods. He was actually refuting the false gods there in the very presence of it. He also didn't tell a bunch of people, hey, come and listen to me here. No, he went there because that's where they were. So I do think that there's philosophically a conversation worth having that says me going and posting something on TikTok or Twitter or Facebook or YouTube doesn't mean I'm actually endorsing that site or that place. It just means that I'm trying to connect with people who are there.
That's
and I do think that's a different perspective. And in essence, what we're doing on TikTok is we're trying to get people to actually come to YouTube. We're saying, hey, this is on TikTok. If you want to watch this, come to our YouTube channel.
Right.
So if anything, we're using TikTok to promote and endorse YouTube.
Right.
And YouTube's, hey, there's some questionable stuff. I don't know how to answer all those questions. Right. It's an opportunity. It's an engagement. So I do think that you have to have an honest philosophical conversation rather than just buying into the media buzz and buying into the resistance to something new or different.
Right.
So that's just you got to consider how that works for you philosophically and the focus of what you're trying to do.
So the concept of the short content is is something that is, well, I mean, it's out there. It's crazy. Asking somebody like right now to sit down and spend an hour or so with us on this live video here is sometimes a big ask. Some people, the people that are in our chat right now, my guess is they're not sitting at home with this on the big screen. They're not sitting in their car at a red light paying attention to us. They're probably, we've got Pete. He's the media director at his church. He is probably working on stuff for this weekend, and he's got this playing in a window. And he may not be watching; he may just be listening to us right now. When it comes to the short form stuff, the rule on YouTube is a minute or less, right? So that is that is kind of the standard out there for like this vertical content is something that can be consumed as a snack. It's the equivalent of, grabbing 2 pretzels and tossing them in your mouth versus sitting down with a ribeye steak, right? So there is a lot of ways that we as church media creators can utilize this and provide content. All the stuff that we've talked about can be fodder for the short format. We can take short sermon clips, for example. You can take bits and pieces of your sermon. You could take our pastor usually has 1, 2, or 3 points that he does. We could take just a video clips from the sermon where he says, which brings us to the first point, that blah blah blah, and then maybe a sentence or 2 where he reinforces what that thing is, and that right there could be a short. Okay, then we could do number 2 and put that up. Then we could do number 3. And so now we have 3 shorts. And on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we could release those shorts that are point 1, point 2, and point 3, which were really salient points, the core of what the sermon was about this weekend. And then on Thursday, we could take points 1, 2, and 3, and in abbreviated format, put point 1, point 2, point 3, and then the wrap-up thought or something that sort of ties, in our case, the sermon in a sentence, that kind of ties all these things together for the greater point, and then put a little something on there that says, come to tatesprings.com. Now we have our 4th piece of content. That's just taking sermon clips, okay? But then you can be even more intentional with the shorts by creating content that is specifically for the short form thing, not taking something that's out there and repurposing it, but making something, a micro devotional. For me, a micro devotional for me is, the Bible app that we all have, Curtis, on our phones. They do a verse of the day. Mm-hmm. As I'm beginning my day, that is like the first thing that I look at is the verse of the day. And then I will go and grab an image with that on there, and I'll post that to Facebook. But for me, as a consumer, as a person that's out there, that gives me a micro devotional. I read that scripture and I think about it, and that may lead me into my first prayer time of the day. And it's just one scripture. It's just one verse usually. But God uses that in my life daily, right? You can be providing the exact same thing. You, as a church, can not only be providing a verse of the day, but you can be doing it in short form. You could have somebody in your ministry that does this. It could be a volunteer that's doing this. It could be the pastor. It could be the worship pastor, family pastor. It doesn't matter. It could be, Miss Smith that sits 3 rows back on the right-hand side. She may be the one to do it. It doesn't matter. Your church can be putting that out and providing value, and providing that as our kids, as us as individuals are just scrolling through the shorts, or scrolling through Instagram, scrolling through Facebook Watch, scrolling through TikTok, whatever, we could be providing value there. There's also, like you were talking, you do these lives every now and then where you just kind of go live and you just think about, you say something, you talk about a concept or whatever, walking down the hall or sitting at your desk or whatever. Those same kind of things, I think, can be really good short form content that goes out there as a short. And what's cool about those things is that they can be there forever. And because, say, YouTube, it's specifically YouTube, indexes like all the stuff that we say. So as you're uploading your video to YouTube, they are listening to what it is, what the text is that you're speaking, and generating, a subtitle automatically for someone who's hearing impaired or doesn't speak English or something. The words can come up on the screen, but that also gets indexed, and the algorithm tries to derive a little bit of context so that when someone is looking for something, if you're the one that is talking about that subject or answering that question that they may be typing into the search bar, it'll show up. And that is how we can make ourselves available where the people are. If you do a 1-minute plan of salvation and put it up as a reel, and someone is typing, how can I get to heaven? And in your video, you say something like, a lot of people want to know how they can get to heaven. Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Nobody comes to the Father but by me. Okay, well, because all of that, people say, how can I get to heaven? And someone types in, how can I get to heaven? They're asking that question. You're providing the answer. You could inadvertently be leading someone to Christ and impacting their life in a way that no one has ever been able to impact their life, simply because you did something like upload a little short. It can be really powerful. Or am I missing something?
No, I think it's true. I do think it's really important that we understand our purpose, though, also. So as an individual, we should be posting these things. We should be reaching out to people. If you're active on Instagram and you've got followers, you should be using that to impact people's lives. As a church, we may share a lot of those same purposes, obviously sharing the gospel, those kinds of things, but really want to make sure there's a call to action opportunity with almost everything we do, a call that says, hey, here's this snippet, but if you want to know more, then you can come to our website, or you can come to our YouTube channel, or you can see the full clip, the full video or something like that, and make sure that what we're posting as a church in our shorts consistently offers value, information, and a call to action, an opportunity to connect. Like if you're on Instagram, yeah, okay, maybe they can like you or whatever, follow you, that kind of thing. But really, you don't ever want someone's relationship to your church to be confined by Instagram. It's not enough. It's too small. So we want to make sure everything we're doing is moving people to a YouTube channel, a website that shows them the complete story, the complete message. And I think that we want to make sure that we always have those opportunities connected. Hey, if you'd like to know more about this, then come over to here, or even just a link they can click on or whatever. So we want to make sure we have intentional, purpose-based calls to action when we're posting, so it's not just random.
Right, exactly. And that is intent, and that is being purposeful about what it is that you're doing. And there's some tools that can help you do this sort of stuff. I'm actually going to be reviewing some. I'm working actually with 2 companies that help generate reels and shorts and things like that. That one of them, if you've seen any of the shorts on our channel, they're like all of them are being used by one piece of software that makes the creation of these things easy for me, someone who runs a television network and does all of this. Would make it easier for you, Curtis, who runs a family ministry and other aspects of church life and a busy pastor. And we understand that what we're asking you to do is work, right? We know that. We know that you're busy. We know that you're making hospital visits. And we cater to the small and medium-sized church, right? We do have people that go to a church of or staff a church of 10,000. We do have viewers that staff a church of 2,000. We have viewers that staff a church of 20. That's the way it is out there, and we know that you are split a whole bunch of different directions. So not only do we want to say and we don't want you to feel bad because you're not doing these sort of things. We're not doing some of these things. Us as church media creators, for our channel, we're not even doing some of the things that we know that we need to do. As a church staff, we know that we're not making the absolute best because we go a whole bunch of different directions, and that's okay. That's just the way life is, right? We're wanting to show you what's out there. We're wanting to show you what you can be doing. We want to show you, and we'll go deeper in other episodes and other videos and other shorts and things like that, showing you how to do these things even easier, like the character animator thing. I can't animate. I'm not an animator. I don't have time to sit down and learn all the software and say, I'm not Lucasfilm, I'm not Industrial Light and Magic. I can't do stuff like that. Well, Curtis just showed you how that you probably already have the software at your fingertips, and that you can do it, in a couple hours in the afternoon. Spend a little time learning how to do it, and now it's like, okay, well, why don't I do an animation for this? Do an animation for that. He showed you how to do something that you thought was really, really hard and really, really big ask. Well, now you know that it's actually a kind of small ask when it, when you compare the output and the yield that you can get from it for the effort that gets put into it. So just keep that in mind, okay?
Yep.
The last thing, the fourth thing on our list is videos on demand, which, when we talk about now, it used to be, we would always say a YouTube video. We're going to do a YouTube video on that. Well, there's a whole lot, as you can see, a whole lot of different types of video content that are out there. There's live streams, there's shorts, there's reels, there's stories, there's video on demand. And that's what we're calling the videos that get uploaded. So you sit down, and you may sit down with a script, you may sit down with a thought or something, and you turn on your camera and you shoot it, and then you edit it, and then you put the graphics in, and you do an animated title, and it's polished and produced, and then you upload it, and then hopefully it goes viral, whatever that means nowadays. But
right, and that means it's always there for you,
Exactly.
And so you can refer to it for somebody's new to the church. And you've got some key videos that focus in on some important things about how we do things as a church. Hey, you can go to our YouTube channel, you can click on this video, you can watch this, and it allows people to kind of hunt and figure out who you are. If they're looking for a church, they can kind of get your identity through those kinds of things. But the nice thing about it is, it means you do the work, and then that's not just it. Like, I think about preaching a sermon. You go and you preach a sermon on a Sunday morning, and then you spend all the time, you baby that thing, you really spend time developing ideas, then you preach it, and then it's done. I mean, you might be able to revisit that if in 5, 6, 7 years, you might be able to come back, and there may be something in that message you use, but it's just kind of done. But when we can capture that, then it becomes a resource instead of just an event. And when we have a resource, it's something that we can continue to use, and that can continue to be used without a lot of effort from us, even as people go and check those things out. So having those things available is important. Just make sure it's in a form where people can find it,
yes,
and find what they're looking for.
Exactly. And to extend that, we've been talking this whole time about how people are using YouTube specifically, social media in general. They're using it to ask questions, to have conversations, to find answers, especially now. Gen Z, Curtis, this one, we always think each generation, has troubles. I mean, we're Gen Xers, and it's like, oh, that, the world's going to come crashing down because, Gen Xers, are running around listening to punk music and all this kind of stuff. We all have things that were going on generationally with us right now. One of the biggest things that we see as parents, I mean, we even see this in our own families, is that our kids are dealing with, en masse, they're dealing with depression, they're dealing with anxiety, they're dealing with body image issues, things. There's a lot of confusion and a lot of questioning that's going on with our kids. And where they're going for answers is TikTok and YouTube and Instagram, because they are a digital generation like never before. And it's important for us as church media creators, as ministers, as people that God has called to reach people. It's important for us to be providing the answers to the questions that are being answered. And that takes purpose. Okay. That takes intent. That takes, it may be that a pastor or a worship pastor or a media creator, whoever's doing the creative at your church, it may be that you start taking one day a month, and this is the day I'm going to sit down and record 5 YouTube videos, and here's the questions that I'm going to answer. And you may not even know what questions are being asked, okay? But you can find them. You can find what people are searching for by going to the YouTube search bar and typing in things like, will I go to hell if? What does the Bible say about? And you will start seeing that actual question being asked. What does the Bible say about divorce? What does the Bible say about homosexuality? What does God hate gay people? I mean, things like that, things that people are asking, questions that people are asking, assumptions that people have that are completely wrong in some cases. They are searching for the answers to those questions. Someone is going to answer that question for them. You need to understand that. I cannot be any more clear. Someone is going to answer the question that is being asked. Is it you? Is it biblical? Are we going to rely on someone else to answer a spiritual question, or are we going to be the ones providing the answer to a spiritual question? Do you trust the world at large to provide the answers, or do you want to grab your Bible and engage with the person asking that question out there, looking for an answer, not going out on the street and asking it, not going to the local church and asking it, not booking an appointment with a guidance counselor and asking that question, typing in a search box? Are you going to be the one that's answering that question? And I would encourage you to do that. There's enough of us out there that are ready to answer a question when asked at dinner or whatever. We're ready to have these conversations. Identify some of those people in your church, in your sphere of influence. Identify some of those people and see if they would be willing to help you provide the answers. That is what we talk about. That is what we mean when we talk about it being a mission field. It is a mission field out there. It's a different kind of mission field, but there are lives, there are hearts that are searching, and we can be the ones that provide the answer. And by providing the answer, we can hopefully get them started down a path that will bring them into a further and deeper relationship with Christ. Curtis, we have to remember that in a couple of videos back, we were talking about how your calling is not necessarily the calling of the person sitting next to you, right? That we have different callings. You know, you're called to minister to families. I'm called to show people how to use technology to amplify the gospel, right? We have 2 separate callings. There's overlap in our callings in some cases, but you know we're all tasked with certain things. Our job is to bring the loaves and fishes. Our job is to not feed the 5,000. Our job is to bring the loaves and fishes and present them as best we can, and then let God take care of the rest. So you're not necessarily going to lead somebody to Christ in a YouTube video. You can share Christ in a YouTube video and maybe get that spark going, trusting that the Holy Spirit is going to bring someone to help harvest that down the road. So just some food for thought. Am I missing anything?
No, I mean, that's just it. It's a tool. It's a tool we want to use. It is an incomplete tool because it lacks personal connection.
That's right.
And so what we want to do is always encourage that. And we just want to take the opportunity to use the tool to help people see who God is, let them see the gospel, and then hopefully direct them toward an actual connection with people who can sit down with them, share the gospel with them, and walk them through it. But at the same time, there are a lot of people who have heard the truth, they get reminded of it, and they say, you know what, that's something I need to take care of. And they just will sit right there and do their business with God and commit their lives to Him. So you never know if you're going to be the sower, the harvester. You don't know what you are, and it doesn't matter. We just want to share the gospel with people and the truth, encouragement that God brings in our lives. And video is a tool we can do that with.
And video is a very effective tool that we can do that with. If you've been enjoying this and getting some value out of it, then you may enjoy taking a look at this other video that maybe goes a little bit deeper. Be blessed, take care, and go out there and use the skills and the things that we're talking about here and use it to help change somebody's life. We'll see you in the next video.